So welcome to our third tribe gathering. Is it our third? February, March, April? Yeah, third.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful because one of the reasons, of course, Jamie and I have been inspired to create this gathering is to generate interest and action in all of the different topics. And I think because now I feel people are in contact with us both throughout the month about the meetings, about the information, it seems we've been at it even longer. But here we go, number 3. So another Chicago-lander, wonderful. So my name is Molly Kaufman, and I am here with my beloved friend and colleague, Dr. Jamie Ralston Wilson. And as this is our third meeting, we're going to just sort of soften our more elaborate introduction and just simply welcome you to this tribe gathering, something that Jamie and I are co-creating to, one, extend our communities and find more connections in the work that each of us is doing individually, but also to provide a place where we can it's funny, this idea of holding space is another one of these sort of modern phrases that we circulate with a lot, but holding space, sort of a sacred and safe space for education and for sharing ideas, and in the very capitalized upon world of health and integrative health and mind, body, spirit health, we just doing our best together to create a community where you feel you have access to real information, education, and probably more than anything else, real tools that can help you live a good life and a happy life. So we're really happy to welcome you today. And today we're going to orient ourselves a little bit differently. And I would like to invite you to join me for a short meditation to begin our call. So however it is that you're situated, just see if you can make any small adjustments to your seat. It's okay if you're on a couch or, even comfortable, but just see if you can find a position where you feel alert. And that might be as simple as just sort of drawing your shoulders back in space, right? Changing your attitude, your orientation in space to feel a little bit more bright and alert. And then go ahead and close your eyes if and when you're ready. And with your eyes closed, simply begin to take note of sensations and to take note of anything that you might be perceiving or feeling, or maybe even thinking in this moment. And as you do this gentle scan from the tips of your toes to the top of your head, also begin to watch your breath. Nothing in particular to do here or to achieve here, but just to become aware of your breath moving in and out. If the inclination to sigh comes, sigh. A natural medicine for relieving tension in the body. And as your mind's eye awakens to this experience of breathing, still just taking gentle note of any feelings throughout your body, almost as if you could listen to yourself if you were just energy. So gentle, simple scan from the tips of your toes to the top of your head. The breath steady in and out. doing your best not to engage in definition or conversation with anything that you might find. Just kind of observing yourself as energy. When you're ready, carry your awareness to the big toe of your right foot. And just following the sound of my voice as we circulate our awareness around the body. Right now, with a few breaths, bringing the awareness as clearly as you can to the big toe of your right foot. And let the awareness flow to the second toe of the right foot, the third toe, the fourth toe, and the fifth toe of your right foot. The awareness, the consciousness flowing up across the top of the foot, the sole of your right foot, the heel, your right ankle, the shin, the calf, your right knee. The awareness flowing as fluidly as possible up across the right thigh, the back of the right leg, the right hip, the right side of the rib cage, the right armpit, the right shoulder, the upper arm on the right side, the bicep and the tricep, the right elbow. Awareness flowing down across the forearm, the right wrist, the back of the hand, the palm of the hand, the right thumb, right index finger, middle finger, ring finger, and pinky finger of your right hand. Carry your awareness gently now all the way down to the big toe of your left foot. Just check in with the steadiness and ease of the breath as you clearly arrive in your mind's eye at the big toe of your left foot. And flowing again to the second toe, the third toe, the fourth toe, the baby toe of your left foot, the top of your foot, the sole of your left foot, the heel. Awareness flowing up across the left ankle, the shin, the calf, your left knee, flowing up across the left thigh, the back of your left leg, your left hip, the left side of the rib cage. Awareness flowing across the left armpit, the left shoulder, the upper arm, the left elbow, the forearm, the left wrist, the back of the left hand, the palm of your left hand, your left thumb, index finger, middle finger, ring finger, and pinky finger. Carry your awareness gently now to both feet. Carry the awareness across the tops of both feet, flowing up across the entire front of the body, the fronts of the ankles, the shins, the knees, the thighs. Awareness flowing across the front of the pelvis, the low belly, the chest, the clavicles, the front of the throat, your chin, your lips, your nose and cheeks, your forehead, gently arriving to the top of your head. And as you exhale, carry the awareness once again to the feet, flowing up across the back of the body. Keep the awareness flowing across the bottoms of your feet, the heels, the calves, the backs of the knees, your buttocks, the low back, the mid back and the space between the shoulder blades, the tops of the shoulders, the back of your neck, the occiput, your scalp, and again, gently arriving to the top of your head. Release that concentration completely. And just return to watching and listening to your breath. Again, if the natural inclination to sigh comes, feel free to gently sigh. And as you watch and listen to the natural rhythm of your breath, once again, a gentle scan of observation from the tips of your toes to the top of your head. Just noticing yourself as energy. Maybe noticing if anything has shifted in the last few minutes. Listening and experiencing yourself as energy for 1 or 2 breaths more. And then begin to become aware of any sounds or sensations on the surface of your body or in your immediate environment, and as many breaths as you need to begin to flutter your eyes open. So welcome again, everyone.
Welcome. That was really beautiful, Molly. I am going to introduce our topic for today, which is flow. So this meditation really led us through the flow in the body, the way that energy moves, the way that our awareness can move. And as I was thinking about our topic, it reminded me of a meditation that was introduced to me during my yoga training. And in this meditation, you come up to the water's edge, to a river's edge, and sit alongside the river. And you visualize a basket of flowers next to you. And as you sit there, you observe the movement of the river as it flows, right? And you pick up a flower and you call to mind an emotion or a memory, a feeling. You express gratitude for that experience, that moment, that emotion, and you set it in the water and you watch it pass. And then you bring your awareness to your basket again, and you pull another flower from the basket and you call to mind a different memory. It may be an unhappy one. It may be a sad one. You call to mind an emotion or a feeling. It may be a physical sensation in the body. And you set that flower in the water and you watch it pass. And you continue this with all of your flowers in the basket, setting them in the water and watching it pass. Just like our breath moves in and out of the body, just like our emotions move in and out of the body. Sometimes we want to latch on to certain ones, right? Often the good ones. But being able to bring our awareness to that ability to let things move in our body, to sit with an experience and not shut it out, but experience it, whether it's a good one or a bad one, whether it's grief or anger or happiness or joy or love. Being able to sit with that emotion or that physical sensation in the body and allow it to flow, allow it to move. I think for me, that kind of summarizes flow. There's ways that we can talk about physical flow as yoga instructors, right? There's flow and movement when we're connecting our breath with movement and moving gracefully through different positions. There's a way that energy moves in physical flow, but also with the emotions. So to me, that's flow. Without the sweetness in life, we have trouble moving through some of the bad, and without the darkness, right, we have trouble fully experiencing some of the light.
Yeah, so such a sweet, tender way to enter into what can possibly be a very big subject. How many of you on the call would love to have more flow in your life? You can like give thumbs up to anyone. Yeah. How many of you are aware of why you don't have flow in your life? Not as many, right? I know we're having a little, yeah, maybe we're aware of some of it. Yeah. So, as you're getting to,
right, in the moment, it's hard to catch when flow is not happening. It's easier after that has passed and you go, oh, hey, I got really stuck on that emotion. How do I catch that ahead of time and keep it moving through?
Yeah. And this speaks so beautifully to so many of the offerings here in Tribe is cultivating that state of awareness where we're constantly in conversation with life and never entering into that phase where we become the victim of it. And I think that it's always beautiful not only to consider what it is we feel that we want more of, but to also ask and inquire sometimes, which is the more difficult side of the conversation, as what do we perceive to be in our way of having this thing. And also, of course, as we've talked about in prior weeks, really taking time to identify what this idea might mean to each of us individually. But because we also are working here under the traditions of yoga and traditional Chinese medicine, I would also love today to invite you into the consideration of flow very gently through the lens of traditional Chinese medicine. So in most of these traditions, yoga, traditional Chinese medicine, what we're really doing is evaluating life by way of the movement of energy. And some of you might be familiar with the 5 elements of traditional Chinese medicine: fire, earth, metal, water, and wood. And these are very broad categories that can encompass and sort of umbrella all of the different manifestations in life. But very simply put, what the elements of nature help us to describe are tendencies of energy. And so this idea of flow and of fluidity, while it can resonate actually under all of the 5 elements, depending, because we always have all 5 in all conversations, it really is housed under the umbrella of wood. And Jamie and I have been giggling about this a lot because, of course, right now I'm living in the Southern Hemisphere where we're entering into winter, but the rest of you and most of our community is still in the Northern Hemisphere, where, of course, you're entering into the spring season. And so the wood element is related to spring, one of the, again, many, many different associations. And under the umbrella of the wood element, we also have the paired organ systems of the liver and the gallbladder. And as this is kind of the first time we're even presenting more specifically some aspects of traditional Chinese medicine in this way, I just want to reiterate that when we talk about the organ networks in traditional Chinese medicine, yes, we're definitely referencing a physical organ with physiological functions, but what we're really referencing is an entire network of functionality that resonates under a particular vibration of energy, in this case, wood, and also spring. And so the liver organ is a very special organ when we start to talk about the idea of flow, because part of its job, one of its most important jobs, is to what we call free course the qi. And the qi, of course, is the vital energy that animates everything within us, all of the functionality of being alive and interacting. But the power of the liver, and in its healthful state, it is actually facilitating our ability to flow through life without stop. And Jamie, in the beautiful example she gave of standing by the river and sort of taking note and releasing and allowing things to move. So foundationally here, we're in the realm of that all of life is vibration. So one of the foundational principles of life is movement. And of course, when we feel out of flow, just as Jamie was also referencing in the beautiful meditation, right, is when we try to stop the natural movement of any given thing, or when we interact with something in a non-natural way that creates sort of blocks to the natural flow of things. And so when we look at the topic of flow, and when we embrace the idea of fluidity under the wood element and via the liver and gallbladder, what I feel is that we're talking a lot about entry and exit to situations, because in a way, if you consider life as kind of a stage, right, we're entering and exiting everything, whether it be an emotional experience, whether it be a response to life, whether it be a physiological function, right? You can even think about digestion, like you eat the food, it gets processed, it goes, so there's an entry and an exit, which is part of the very foundation of life, is that everything is coming and going. Everything has its natural fluid movement. And where we get in trouble with flow is when, again, we either try to kind of stop, or in certain circumstances or instances, that those flow get blocked. And so the reason that I chose this particular meditation to start, did anyone feel a bit more free at the end of the meditation?
Mm.
A bit more soft or a bit more receptive and fluid in your perception of yourself or your energy? Anyone?
Mm.
Kind of, yeah. You might have like different words, but right, this is also part of cultivating, and we can talk about it on so many layers, and obviously it really does become a vast subject. But just as we're introducing this through the lens of traditional Chinese medicine in the spring, I suppose the last thing that I'll say just about sort of this lens of fluidity and flow through the wood element through spring is that in this idea of graceful entry and exit, and this can also come with so many things, right? Entering cleanly without bringing the rucksack of the past with us into all of the new situations. When something has taken its natural course, again, no matter what it is, physiological function, emotional experience, phase of life, we're also stepping away, letting that be as it is, and also not trying to drag it into the next encounter. But as we're talking about this entry and exit, I always think that spring in the wood element is such a beautiful representation of this idea of entries and exits in life, because spring is like the ultimate entrance in its rebirth of life, and kind of speaks also to this beautiful natural cycle and flow of life, that in the winter it's such a deep, still, contemplative time where things seem dead, for lack of a better word, and yet spring always comes. So there's always the chance of re-entry, even when we feel either stuck or dormant, or even if parts of us or parts of our experience feel kind of dead or stuck or blocked. What spring here in the wood element is a constant reminder, and actually energetically for all of the functions across the board in our human experience, is that it is helping us to remember that life is movement, and that rebirthing, kind of sprouting and flowing energy of wood is our reminder that there's always kind of a re-entry. There's always going to be another entry. And this can help us to eventually not get stuck so often and for so long in life.
Molly, I love that example. And I'd imagine probably a lot of you do too. We've had a couple of plants through the years that are for different reasons, kind of special plants, and they've moved with us to different places. And every year they die. At least they appear to have gone. There's no evidence of them on the top of the soil. My husband says, "Oh, I think we throw this out." I go, "No, we can't throw that pot out. I think it might come back. I think maybe, and we've moved with these plants through again and again, and every year without fail they go brown, everything falls off, there's no evidence on the top. And then in the spring, here they come, the green comes up, they start to grow, a flower comes out, and you go, how on earth? It was gone. It's totally gone. But under the soil, right, there's something, there's still. So I love what you shared, Molly, and it reminds me of moments when there are overwhelming emotions that you go, how am I going to make it through this? This is too much. That it will pass if you can be honest with the experience and sit with it and observe, right? Use all of these tools to bring awareness to the body. How is it feeling? How am I breathing? How am I moving? And let it pass, that the spring comes, right? That a new emotion moves through. And that doesn't mean you don't feel the old one, or that you don't acknowledge it, or it flows. Yeah, so I love that.
I love that too. And I love, of course, one of the associations with spring is like the sapling, right? The green tree, the tree that's firm and well rooted, but very supple and able to shift. And so your example is so beautiful, Jamie. And I think for all of us too, as hopefully you're also starting to maybe conceptualize this topic of flow a little bit more deeply as we move through this call. What strikes me also about the spring and the energy and this idea of rebirth as it relates to our ability to enter and exit, the more deeply we recognize that spring will always come, which means that, again, remembering that the foundational essence of life is movement, and we cultivate our ability through these different tools that we're, introducing you to and carrying you through in these calls, that what we start to recognize is that we are always holding the ability just to guide the flow of energy, right? And I think that this is one of the misconceptions of flow, is this like, oh, I'm just going to go with the flow. I'm just going to flow with life. And, and it's sort of like if you get caught in a tide pool and you just like let go, then probably you're going to get washed up against the rocks once or twice. Like maybe sometimes it's going to work. And, maybe sometimes you're like, oops, I guess I should have swum, because that would have been a better choice in that. So there's this kind of funny, I think also on the other hand, misconception of just like letting life take you. And through the alchemy and intelligence of traditional Chinese medicine and the practices, we begin to be able to witness ourselves, right, from the level of body, from the most perceptible level to the very subtle layers of our existence. But we begin to become very keen to that. There is an alchemy also to knowing that if there's always movement and we do all the things to keep some movement in our experience as human beings, that we're also always empowered to actually choose how we want to guide it. And I think this is part of the heart of the idea of flow as it relates to our experience as human beings.
Yeah. I love that. Shall I guide us through? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to do a little exercise, a little slightly physical, energetic exercise. So find a position. You can be seated. Seated is maybe easiest, but you're going to be bending a little bit. So up, down a little bit. We're going to do kind of like what would you call it, Molly? Like an energetic massage of the meridians. Yeah. So I'm going to guide you in Chinese medicine. Energy moves through the body in a specific way, moves through all of the different meridians in a specific way. So we're going to be kind of warming up and bringing some chi to our hands, and then giving a bit of a massage to all of those meridians, guiding the flow through the body. Yeah. So let's do it. So we're going to rub our hands together, get them nice and warm, and bring them just slightly apart, and feel whatever sensation you feel between the palms. Maybe warmth, maybe tingling, maybe coolness. And then we're going to do it again. Rub them together. Get them nice and warm. Get your fingers in there. Get your palms in there. Then bring them apart. Feel that sensation again. And we're going to start with the right hand. We're going to bring it to the middle part of the body, kind of the belly. And we're going to move up on the left side. We're going to move up to the chest here, right under the clavicle. We're going to go down the middle of the arm. We'll come to the thumb. This is the lung. And then we're going to go over to the index finger, the radial side of the index finger. We're going to come up the outside of the forearm. This is the large intestine meridian. We come up the shoulder, the side of the neck. We're going to cross the face to the opposite side of the nose. We're going to use our other hand. We're going to come right under the eye to the stomach meridian. We're going to move down the cheek. You can close your eyes if you want. I'll talk you through, or keep them open. Come down the neck, go over the breast area, down the side of the belly, kind of by where the abdominal muscles are. Go down the top of the thigh. You can use both hands or one hand. Go down the shin. Go to the second toe. That ends the stomach meridian. Then we come to the big toe. We're going to go on the inside of the big toe, up the inside of the foot, the inside of the ankle, move up the inside of the leg, so the medial part of the leg, inside of the thigh, coming all the way up to the lateral abdomen. We're going to come up to the chest here, kind of right under the armpit. And we're going to come up to the heart meridian at the armpit. But come down the inside of the upper arm, down the inside of the forearm, come to the little finger here, the medial side. Then we come to the small intestine meridian. We'll go to the outside of the pinky, come to the outside of the forearm, outside of the upper arm, the back of the shoulder, come across the scapula, come up the neck, come up to the ear. And then from here, we're going to go to the eye, the outside of the inside of the eye. We'll go to the urinary bladder meridian, go over the top of the head, come down the back of the head, the neck. We're going to go down the back, down the buttocks, down the back of the thigh, down the back of the calf, to the little toe, come to the bottom of the foot, come up the medial foot, the medial ankle, the inside of the thigh, coming up to the belly. We're going to come up to the chest. Then we're going to go down again. So we're going to go down the side of the chest, go down the middle of the arm, come to the middle finger, go to the ring finger. This is the Sanjiao meridian. Come in the back of the arm, back of the shoulder, around the ear, to the outer corner of the eye. And then we're going to go to the gallbladder meridian. This is one of my favorites. We zigzag on the head. So the temples, the side of the face, side of the head, come down the neck, the top of the shoulder, come down the side of the body, the side of your rib cage, the side of your hip, the side of your thigh, the side of your leg. Come to the fourth toe, and the last one, the liver, would come to the big toe, and the top of the foot, the shin, come up the inside of the thigh, inside of the groin, and we end at the belly. All right. That was one side. That was a long one. There's a lot of meridians. Did you follow me okay? Yeah. Yeah. It would have been, I wish I could have had like a little camera to follow my hand as I was.
A meridian drone.
Yeah, a meridian drone. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah. So can I ask you, Jamie, because I love doing this exercise, but one of the things that struck me this time around, and
you're breaking up just a little bit. So I lost.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let me turn up the volume too. One of the things that struck me this time when we went through, well, first of all, how many people on the call just like were like, oh, can you hear me? No.
Guys, huh? Molly, you're frozen.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I'm so sorry,
you
guys.
were frozen for a second. We missed your question.
Okay, yeah. It's telling me I'm unstable, so this is good for flow. Just really quickly, I wanted to ask the group, and I know, you know, Jamie and I obviously are very passionate about all of these topics, so I'm going to try to be mindful as the timekeeper as well. But how many of you, as you did that, thought like, oh, it's so nice to touch myself? Anyone? Okay, Krista, for sure
There's
did.
something about this question.
No,
We lose you.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
We hear you as soon as you start to ask the question, we lose it.
Okay, I'll ask it at the end of the call. How about that?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, no, I could type it in the chat, but I'd rather also move on. So can you hear me now, everyone? I'm so sorry about the connection. Yeah, it flows with nature here. And you know, this is also part of it, right? So it's like such a beautiful example of also this idea of flow and embracing moments of unexpected or unintended, and how we also just choose to interact. And for sure, having done the flow of consciousness meditation and also this beautiful meridian meditation, right, we're then all of a sudden more prepared to embrace the moments in life that don't seem to flow naturally. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what I would love to do now after both of these experiences is just to point out, because of course part of our intention is to empower you with tools. And so while, as you can imagine, this is a vast topic, and what we each might individually begin to encounter and recognize as blocks to our natural flow, or blocks to our ability to let other things flow in their natural. No. Not happening.
Mal, I wonder if you can, if shifting to another place.
Yeah. Well, Jamie, if you can hear me, just continue you until I figure this out. Yeah.
Will you try, Mal? Will you try taking off your video and just leave the audio on and see if it changes?
Absolutely. Yeah. Can you hear me now, everyone?
Yeah.
Can hear me clearly? Okay, so great. Follow the sound of my voice, and I will just get to watch all of your beautiful faces out there. So just give me a signal if you can't hear me. But on the topic of flow, as I was saying, you know, I think for each of us individually, obviously we go through an entire discovery process, and probably a constant discovery process, of where flow might be blocked, because this ultimately is the real question, right? Not how to get flow, but to begin to recognize where the natural flow of things is blocked. And that can be on the physical level, it can be on the emotional level, it can be on so many layers of our existence. And of course, the mind is one of these tools that's a little bit tricky. And I think in the modern world, we're invited to think about things and logic through things a lot with our mind. But of course, one of the things that makes holistic practices, I think, very powerful is that we have these different types of practices and tools, such as meditation, flow of consciousness, just even touching ourselves along the meridians, that can bring back a more enhanced sense of flow, so that we're never out of conversation with life. Are you still hearing me pretty well?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Wonderful. So I'm sorry that my video won't be on, but I would love to, of course, invite you into the world of essential oils, and how we might use an essential oil also in the realm of flow, or enhancing flow. And the oil that I've chosen to talk about today is kind of an interesting one. It's lavender. So how many people think that lavender, like think of lavender as a sedative? Anyone? Give me a show of like hand, thumb, maybe, right? Like lavender for sleep, lavender to calm down, lavender, yeah, maybe, right? Actually, through the eyes of traditional Chinese medicine, lavender is a liver qi mover. And so the reason that I chose to present, I'm actually holding the bottle up to the camera as if you can see it. So I'm just continuing as if everything is normal. So imagine me showing, thank you, Jamie. Imagine me showing you the lavender because I am just doing everything like normal. And so lavender as a liver qi mover brings us into what I think is a super interesting conversation around flow. And that is that flow is something harmonious and natural, which means that we need both yin and yang to be present in order for flow to be healthful, meaning that it's possible that we're out of flow, maybe because there are so many blocks that we're navigating that the energy becomes kind of like small volcanoes all over the place. We might be out of flow because there's just not enough energy to actually flow. You can think of like a river with, rocks on the base that doesn't have enough water in it. So it's butting up against the blocks in a more significant way. Lavender isn't actually necessarily a sedative, but medicinally, it speaks to the fact that most of the time we have a difficult time settling down because our energy is so tense and not flowing. And again, this can be across the spectrum, whatever it is. And so the beauty of lavender is that it isn't actually a sedative. It isn't something that is depressing the energy. It's something that is facilitating the healthful flow of energy. And this shows us that when things are in their natural flow, everything works as normal. So if you take lavender in association with sleeping, it isn't that it's sedating you to sleep. It's actually that it's putting your body in a better balance so that your body can actually go through its natural circadian rhythms in a healthful way. Does that make sense to everyone? Yeah. And so lavender is a really special one when it comes to the idea of flow because it's so universal, it's so user friendly, and it can also be used in a multitude of situations where we begin to feel out of flow. There are two other essential oils and herbs, but herbs that are also essential oils, frankincense and clary sage, that have very similar properties to the lavender. But where we can begin to sort of make this more applicable is that when we begin to recognize either a moment that we're out of flow, or maybe we begin to recognize the moments where we kind of tense our energy or that something pulls us out of flow, we might remember to breathe deeply. But if you also happen to have your lavender oil handy and you take a few drops in your hands and you take a nice whiff of the lavender oil and do your deep breaths, you're just getting at refacilitating natural flow in a deeper, more holistic, more collaborative way. And Jamie, so two of my favorite points for lavender are on the gallbladder channel, right at the occiput. So Jamie can be my model since you can see her and not me. So the gallbladder channel, as Jamie was saying, zigzags down the side of the body. So it's a pivot meridian. And gallbladder 20 is that really lovely spot that when you feel tension in your shoulders, that you want someone to rub on the back of your head. Or if you've been lucky enough, like at the end of a yoga class, sometimes a knowledgeable teacher will come by and give a little pressure on these points, right? So behind the ear, on the occiput, in this kind of big divot, usually a little bit tender. But this is a wonderful, thank you, Jamie. That's such a beautiful example. This is a wonderful, wonderful place to use your essential oils. Of course, just in regionally, it's going to help us to not carry the weight of the world on our shoulders, which is a big blocker to flow. It also relieves tension from the wood meridians, so liver and gallbladder. So as you can imagine, it enhances the way that the body can act and navigate through the world with more fluidity. And it also has a special function at the emotional level. So helping to what we would say sort of calm the Shen, calm the spirit, to help us navigate our emotional responses to life more fluidly.
I love that. Do you want, should I guide us through another point?
Yeah, I think that would be wonderful.
Okay. Another point that is probably one of the most common, most commonly used, most commonly thought of points for moving the liver chi for a primary moving point in the body is on the foot. So I'll hold my foot up for you. So right between the big toe and the second toe, these bones come together and create kind of a V shape here. And if you run your finger from the space in between the toes down between those two bones, just before where they meet, before that little triangle forms, that's liver 3. Can you see that okay? Liver 3, it's used, as I said, as a primary moving point. So we often pair it with another point on the hands that are called the 4 gates. And those 2 points paired together are moving for chi anywhere where there's blockages in the body. But another time that would be good to use liver 3, we can use it when there's headaches, when you're feeling stressed, right? And stress manifests for everyone differently, whether you have a headache or an upset stomach, or you get irritable or angry or frustrated, or any of those, pain in the body. So this is a great point to massage. You can use kind of one finger on the bottom of the foot and the thumb to kind of dig into that space. It's usually pretty tender. And just give it a good press and massage. I think, Molly, you're more the expert on essential oils, but applying lavender to that point.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So things like, really so many, I would say any time when you're not feeling flow, right? Or when you can catch yourself in that moment where you're kind of latching on to something, right? To an emotion or a situation to help you move through it. I think one of the things, as Molly and I were talking about flow, and talking about kind of acupressure and the use of lavender and its ability to help our body move and do what we would naturally do, is in acupuncture, we don't have points that we press or we needle that stop something. And what I mean by that is, when you're irritable or angry, there's not a point, a place we stick a needle that stops the emotion of irritability or anger. Or grief, there's not a point that we needle that stops grief, that suppresses it. There's points that we needle that move chi, that help us to experience that emotion or that feeling in a healthy way, help to unblock the flow of energy that's getting stuck at various places.
So beautifully put, Jamie. And I think another example, if I may jump onto that bandwagon, and also kind of expand flow beyond the spring, is in the realm of herbal medicine. So many modern approaches to medicine do actually stop processes. And while it facilitates our ability to keep living the modern demands of life, it's a little bit dangerous, because hopefully, as you're beginning to gather, the real states of health are those in which we can facilitate the natural flow. And another example of that was just so beautifully integrated into the conversation, Jamie. I love that example. And also that thought about the acupuncture points, right? The alchemy of moving energy where and how we want it, rather than trying to stop any natural process, even a disease process. And so if you think about, like, when you get a cold and, you maybe go to Walgreens and you get the Sudafed and the this, and everything stops the nasal dripping and it stops the process. And then what you end up with, unfortunately, is a pathogen that just kind of houses itself in your body because it didn't have the time and space to actually be processed by your body. And so if you've ever been treated by an herbalist or an acupuncturist when you have a cold, what you may have experienced is kind of an enhanced cold, right? Maybe not a direct alleviation of the symptoms in an immediate way, but moving through the process of the infection with more grace and more velocity, because our approach as holistic practitioners are to help move the body through the healthful process, so that when you exit that disease process, you're exiting cleanly and you're not carrying anything latent in your rucksack, so to speak. And so it's another sort of version of thinking about flow, is that we're not trying to avoid, we're not trying to flow over things, but we're really, truly trying to facilitate the healthful flow of what is real and honest in any given moment.
Yeah. With a cold, one of the best examples is at the first signs of a cold, one of the ways that we will often treat that is by sweating, by promoting sweating. So rather than shutting down a fever, shutting down, just stopping all symptoms, at the very first signs of a certain type of cold, we'll promote sweating so that the body can, in a way, sweat and throw off the pathogen, fully express it. And then you bundle up and you rest and you drink lots of fluids. Again, a certain type of cold. It's not all colds that we would do something like promoting sweating, but as Molly was saying, rather than stifling and stopping and Band-Aid approach to a cold, we fully sweat it out.
Yeah, who doesn't want to fully sweat it out, right? We all love that sensation. So in the spirit of also being mindful of everyone's time, although I'm sure that, you feel the same maybe as us, that we could stay here for a long time. Another, just sort of, is my sound funny? Or am I fine?
It's okay.
Okay. In sort of bringing the conversation full circle in a way to flow, going back to our joking acknowledgement that while all of you right now, at least on the call, maybe not some of you that might watch the recording eventually, but of course you're living spring right now. And so in the grand scheme of things, it's a very beautiful time to acknowledge and also just to give yourself time to consider this idea of flow of life in its natural way, our ability to enter and exit all of the varying situations in life with grace. And another quality of the wood element is like kind of receptivity or a forgiving nature. And I don't mean forgiveness outright, like, oh, I forgive you, but like the forgiving nature of that green sapling, right? Well rooted with structure, with form, but also able to sort of weather the winds of life with grace and with fluidity as they come. But interesting to note then, even though we can use the spring and all of the things that it represents to enhance our understanding of what flow might be, when you look then to the fact that some of you are experiencing spring, and I'm living right now the heart of autumn into winter. What could that idea of flow mean for someone who's living also in this season? And one representation or just one thought about that is, again, back to nature and how it shows us even the natural flow of energy through the cycle of the seasons and through the cycle of life. And so right now, for me, I'm not really embracing necessarily the sprouting energy of spring, but I'm celebrating flow by celebrating that I'm entering into a more contemplative season. And I'm not entering into more energetic or like sprouting types of activities, because that goes against the natural flow of the season, but rather embracing even change in diet to celebrate the shifting energy of the world around me, and dancing and flowing with that, and trying also not to combat what nature is facilitating as far as what we're living through right now in autumn into winter. So softening the effort, getting a little quieter, getting a little bit more still. And this is actually in flow, because it's in flow with what is honest and real in this moment. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah. For us entering spring here, in the winter, we were talking about using, in terms of diet, those foods that are warm, like stews with warm spices, cinnamon and clove, ginger. We talked about making a ginger tea. And now things that are more heavy in fat and richer. And now as we enter spring, this is the season when we start to incorporate some more of the vegetables, some more of the greens, things that are sprouting, right, as Molly described. And we can start to add a little bit more of the things that are cooling, right? Like our cucumbers and our bright green vegetables, our kale and our collard greens, or our spinach, still having them maybe a little bit warmed up, a little bit steamed. We're not raw salads and cruciferous. Maybe that comes a little bit later in the summertime, but we can start to incorporate more of these greens, which also help to move the liver. So really great things to start adding as we start to warm up.
Yeah. And if you're wondering, and I think maybe this is sort of a beautiful way to culminate the conversation, if you're wondering how eating greens could help you, like maybe you're feeling stuck in a particular situation in a relationship, or you're finding that you're kind of not flowing because you're really frustrated about something, and you're thinking, well, eating greens, okay, that's all fine and dandy, but how in the world is that going to help me flow better in life? And so it's also a beautiful moment as we bring this call to a culmination, to remember that through the lens of traditional Chinese medicine, through the lens of yoga, we can enter into the conversation in so many different ways, whether it be through our nutrition choices, whether it be through the essential oils that we're bringing into our daily routine, whether it be through how we're moving our physical body with the asana practice or dancing, or right. So whether it's through meditation, where we're also coming in through the portal of the mind and at the level of emotion. But regardless of where we enter the conversation, it is going to manifest on all the levels of our experienceable, that is not a word, I'm sure, in English, existence, of the way that we experience life. I just like to see you smile, a little bit out there on the Zoom call, but so it's in our integrative approach, right? The things that we know or the things that we remember, it might not seem to connect firsthand the various ways that maybe we're not experiencing flow, or that we recognize our flow is blocked. But any of the small things that we can do to create flows on any layer of our experience as a human being is going to sort of trickle out and into all of those other experiences. And, just a reminder that our body, our mind, our emotions, they're giving us signals all the time. And so the more we are willing to hear and recognize those signals when they arrive, the more empowered we are to make the choices that will help us to stay in flow.
Yeah.
Can
we call you back to video for a goodbye?
Carmen, thank you so much for joining us. I think Carmen is saying goodbye, and maybe as I turn my video back on, we could open the floor to any questions that you might have. I'll try my video again, but if it does funny things, we'll turn it back off. Hi, everyone. Yeah. Any questions or clarifications or thumbs up if you felt that this was interesting and useful?
When you shared about wood being so representative of flow, at first I think of dry, hard wood. Mm.
What? So rather than, Molly's maybe jumping in and out here. Rather than like the bark, the dry heart, it's associated with more of the green element for wood.
Right.
I wonder if Molly has any different ways of.
Yeah. So can you hear me, everyone? That trying to turn the video on, unfortunately, just made everything kind of go chaotic again. But yes, so Carmen, I heard just part of your question, but as Jamie is, beautifully saying, so the association energetically, of course, is that green sapling. And so we want to be thinking about movements of energy, and it gets tricky for the logical mind when we begin to put symbols to things, because it's very easy to attach also, a lot of different meanings to the symbols. And so while wood, yes, there are so many varying parts of the cycle, the life cycle of wood. In this, the representation of that green sapling is chosen specifically to help us describe the energetic that the wood element is describing in traditional Chinese medicine. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so it isn't so much about the wood, actually. It's about that we're using this word to describe a particular tendency and movement of energy. And so we choose the part of the life cycle of wood that most represents that.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome. And it's also, if you don't mind, because as I was thinking about, and of course Jamie and I have lots of internal calls throughout the weeks as we're discussing these topics and preparing ourselves. And just before I was signing on, because I happen to be on a lake right now, or very near a lake, and flow is also an easy association to make with the water element. And so here also, it's, we kind of get out of the logical mind, because flow as it relates to the water element is like the foundational flow of life, like the foundational force that is the foundational energy for all of life. Whereas the flow of liver is how all of these different energies of life are integrated and communicating in a healthful way together. Does that make sense?
Beautiful. Yeah.
So you can start to look at it on multiple levels like that as well. But here in wood, we're definitely in the integration of all of the satellite, entities of life, how they are functioning and flowing together.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
That goes back to what you said earlier too, Molly. The role of the liver in traditional Chinese medicine is free flowing qi. The liver is the organ system that makes all the flow of qi happen through the meridians.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris and Danielle. Sorry, people are signing off and saying thank you. So thank you so much to everyone who has joined us today. so much. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Danielle. But yeah, Jamie, I mean, this is, yeah, anyway, so many aspects of flow, but sort of back in that wood element and the spring element of keeping everything, entering and exiting, communicating in a fluid way. All of the different processes of our life, so to speak. Yeah.
Any other questions before we sign off? It was lovely to have you all. Thank you for joining us.
Hannah, yeah, okay. Her children are encouraging her to flow outside with the family. Yes, absolutely. One kind of flow. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Jamie, also. It's always so wonderful to be with you. Now everyone's signing off, so we can say it again next time. Okay. Thank you so much for being with us today. Bye, Krista. Bye, Katie. Bye, Diane.